My name is Matilda Velovich and I am a writer. I have written a play called Three Mothers, which is inspired by the 2015 migrant crisis and tells the story of three very different women. In this particular story, we look at three mothers who either are subject to forced migration or, in fact, being forced to migrate themselves, or they're sending someone away. And it was really inspired by a particular moment, which was in 2015, I was in a small village in Bavaria. A lot of refugees were coming into Munich every day, and we were literally lugging boxes, and a colleague of mine who's German turned around and said, it was the women who rebuilt our country after the Second World War. Europe turned their back on us and we rebuilt the country. And to me, that is a consistent theme that's often undocumented. I looked particularly at lesser-known stories of forced migration and refugees. So I chose the story of Kadi, who is a Senegalese 37-year-old mother who feels obliged to send her son across the seas to Europe to earn some money for her family. Gisela, who is a 72-year-old German woman who returns to a Bavarian village and witnesses the migration that's coming into her former home. Thirdly, I chose Erika, who was from Sudetenland. In 1945, all ethnic Germans were forced to leave Sudetenland and return to Germany, a country that actually they'd never lived in, nor were they wanted when they arrived. There are many untold stories of migration, forced migration, refugees, you can call it what you like, but people move, they feel forced, obliged to take their families, risk their lives, leave everything behind. And if we look into ourselves, we usually have come in contact with that. In the case of Kadi, who's left in Senegal, she doesn't actually know if she's made the right choice, but it is her only choice to send her son, and she knows the risks, and we see the agony she suffers, along with other people, who either their children succeed or they don't, and that's what we watch her go through at the time. Hope is a recurring theme throughout the play. You'll hear each character at a certain turning point of their own personal journey repeat that phrase. It is about the fact you cannot hope alone. They all reach a point where hoping that things are going to mend themselves, get better, is not the answer. You have to make it happen, you have to move forward, and that's what these women do, and that is what historically women do. They move forward, they rebuild. I think we can all do that. That is apparent in all of our lives. We can all make that happen. I weaved the three stories together as if it was fabric. That's how they intertwine throughout the play. Kadi and Erika are both seamstresses. When telling their story, they make a lot of references to fabric, to sewing, to mending, to fixing, to covering up, to wrapping. All of these things are sort of themes throughout, and I chose that because it links them and it links us to them as well. We were really impressed with some of the feedback we had. We had a lot of people asking us to share more information on the research we did, but more importantly, we had people come forward, sometimes even people I'd known for a long time, who shared their own background or story. The theatre manager came forward and said, there is a woman in tears in the loo and we're holding the second act. So I went in, and she was a woman about my age who was Serbian and happened to be in the UK working as an au pair when the Balkan War began, and she couldn't return home, and her mother was forced to send her two brothers to Austria immediately to avoid them becoming involved. And as a result, the entire family stayed separated for 4 or 5 years, not knowing what was happening to each other, but more importantly, relying on other people to help, which is what happened. And quite often these people were women who helped, and eventually the family came back together. But she felt, watching it, that it replaced some of the things that happened in her family. She actually experienced it for the first time. Three Mothers is an all-female cast and creatives, and I think that's really important. We're living in an age at the moment where the finger is being pointed at industries, theatre, stage, television, film. Not enough females are being brought to the forefront. I wrote the play because I wanted to reach out to women in particular, but to bring stories together, small stories that you can immediately connect with, and I think motherhood's one of the themes. So if everybody feels touched by one story, that makes a big difference.